First, good evening, and here I feel as if I am at home. So thank you very much, and to make us all feel that we are at home, and we Arabs in New York, we feel that that this atmosphere is our place. Hopefully, we can have our countries back one time, but in the meantime, we can use a place like this to feel that we are at home. Thank you very much. After this book was published, it had a big problem. This book, when I was young, at that time, I was a militant with the Palestinian liberation movement. And in this book, there is it was the really only, maybe only criticism, auto-criticism of the behavior during the Civil War. Because, you know, we enter wars and we enter civil wars with all these ideals we have in our heads, and then we discover that we are doing crimes. And in this book, these crimes were shown for the first time. And when it was published, it was a shock for all my friends and comrades, to the extent that this book was practically the only book which was banned by our beloved chairman Yasser Arafat in Beirut. And actually it was not banned because Arafat couldn't ban, he was not the government, but he ordered the publisher not to distribute the book. So this book was never distributed when it was published. It was distributed for 2 weeks and then it disappeared, and I have my copies, of course, which were given to me by the publisher, but I couldn't find any copy, and the publisher disappeared. I didn't know where he is. Then, 15 years later, I met the publisher in Tunisia, in Tunis. He was very sick. He had a cancer, brain cancer, and he was dying. And he told me he wants to tell me a secret, and he told me the story of the way this book was banned. But this is not the end of the story, because in 1982, the Israelis invaded Lebanon and occupied Beirut, and then the massacre of Sabra al-Shatila took place. And I began writing a series of articles entitled The Times of Occupation. And this is how I met Maia, because Maia translated one article of these, if you remember. And these articles were the first sign of resistance against the Israeli occupation of Lebanon. And at that moment, the book was reprinted, and it was considered the Palestinian book par excellence in Beirut. So you see, with the change of circumstances, a book which was banned by the PLO will become, in 1983, the PLO book, which will tell us a lot about literature, about how literature can go beyond the time it was written and go beyond the circumstances of its writing. Because when you have literature that speaks to the human experience. So yesterday I was discussing, because now I have a grandson who is very beautiful and whom I love him very much, and yesterday there were news coming from Lebanon and from the United States about Hezbollah having Scud missiles. Of course, everybody of you have an idea about this. And there was a long report in one of the Lebanese newspapers that there was a project of an Israeli attack to destroy the missiles before Hezbollah used them last week. And my son was calling me, and I told him, when you were the same age of your son, we were speaking about, because we were speaking and we said, if the war will happen, what we will do with the boy? Where we must take him, where shall we live, where it's more safe? Of course, there's nothing safe, but we make this. And I told him, you know, we are speaking the same thing. I used to speak with my father when you were 1 year old. 1 year old. So it's a terrible situation. So we cannot wait till it finishes so that we write. So we have to write with war, and we have to write with this experience that we are living. So we are writing the present, which is something I think very rare in literature. Writing the present when it's taking place, with all the dangers of writing the present. Because writing the present is very dangerous because you can be misleaded, you can be under ideological pressure, and so on and so forth, but we have no other choice.
So I'm going to start where Elias started in Arabic. She was just a child. She couldn't have been more than 12 when her father took her to Mr. Mitri Hilu's house in Ashrafieh. She'd never seen such buildings before, nor lived anywhere else, nor met people who drank and danced with women, and such an abundance of food and a mistress who slept till noon. At first she cried all the time and dreamed of running away, but then she'd forget for a while. She'd watch TV and forget. She'd see people, Mr. Mitri, his beautiful wife, and their children. She loved them all, and she'd forget. On the very rare occasions her father came down from there, her eyes would cloud over as the tears welled up, and he would tell her that he'd be back the following year to take her home. Slowly, however, she forgot. She forgot everything, even her father, so that next time he came, she stared at him vacantly and found nothing to say. He asked her if she was happy. She told him that she was, and she showed him her room and the toys and clothes they'd given her, and then he left. During all her time in this city, she never seriously thought of going back until she married Mahmoud. She told him she wanted to go back there, and he promised she would. Every year, he promised. And now, where was she to go, with Mahmoud dead and her alone with the children? Where would she go when she knew nobody? A first cousin on her father's side lives in a building nearby with her husband and children, but they don't pay much attention to her. They came to the funeral and helped out with the expenses and everything, but they still treat her like a stranger, and they don't feel like family. She feels utterly alone in her predicament, and now there's this man whom she hardly knows, and who has brought her nothing but grief. Enough?
Thank you. Bravo.
Hope or hopelessness?
It's hope or hopelessness? You know this book of Nietzsche, Beyond Good and Evil? There's a book by the philosopher Nietzsche entitled Beyond Good and Evil. And this is a book beyond hope and hopelessness. Because in a situation like the book is describing or telling the stories, we are more in a very tough experience. The story is about this man who, as I said, lost his child, and then he became a little bit strange. And his idea was that we have to paint the city with white, and white is in the novel here, it is the symbol of death, and then he will be killed. And the story is like a thriller. We are searching who killed him. So I'm searching the narrator, who is a guy who just finished his studies in the Lebanese University in political science, and who is working in a travel agent because he didn't find a real job because he wanted to become a journalist or a diplomat. But he failed in both. So he became working in a travel agent, and he is just following the story and trying to find who killed the man. And I will not tell you who killed the man, you have to find it yourself. You will not find it also in the book, so you have to tell me who killed the man.